warm welcome to all of you. Good afternoon, good morning, depending on where you're joining us from. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to be talking about this topic today, which is particularly close to my heart because this is something which is within the control of every one of us. Yeah, and it's such an important thing because it can make the difference between success and failure in climbing that corporate ladder. But before we embark on this very, very interesting webinar today, let me tell you a little bit about BDO. So BDO is a global advisory and audit and tax firm. We are actually the fifth largest globally in terms of size, in terms of revenue. Last year, our revenues exceeded $14 billion. We have offices in 166 countries and territories. We have 1,766 offices altogether, fully established offices, and we employ 115,000 professional people worldwide. What this means is if you engage us, we have not just a global footprint, but we also have standards that are consistent across the world. If you look at the map to your right, you'll see the parts shaded in gray. All of those parts are areas where we have established offices. So we talk about the 1,776 offices. Those offices exist in all those gray parts. Doesn't mean we're not doing work in the other places, but we may not have an established office there. Now, let me just talk a little bit about our services. So BDO provides all of the services that you would expect of a advisory and audit firm. We provide normal statutory or financial audits where we act as external auditors. We can provide specialized audits for donor-funded projects, other special purpose audits and reviews. We do internal control audits. We've provided training on IFSR and other technical standards, and we provide a whole host of other assurance-related services. We also have a fully fledged tax department, and we provide the usual tax compliance services to our clients, including tax reviews, tax audits, and health checks. We have a specialized division on transfer pricing, and we've helped a lot of our clients in that area. We have experts on employment tax and expatriate taxation, as well as corporate international tax planning. And we also provide services in indirect taxes and customs duty. And then we have a division that deals with outsourced services, which means you can outsource these services to us. And basically, we will provide services such as accounting and bookkeeping. So we can do all of your record keeping for you, the compilation of your statutory annual accounts, the compilation of your management accounts. We also provide financial management agent services, so we can handle cash on your behalf. We provide fiscal management services, payroll services, IFRS services. We also do company secretarial work, and we also provide legal assistance as well. And then the last but not least department, which is basically where I sit, which is advisory services. And here we're looking at internal audit and risk management, management consulting, corporate recovery, corporate finance, transaction advisory services, forensic investigation services, including things like digital imaging of your computers, technology advisory services, services in sustainability, and also services for data privacy and data protection. Right, so let's now talk about emotional intelligence. And let's start at the foundation. So, what is emotional intelligence, or EQ, as it's often abbreviated? I mean, this encompasses a suite of skills critical for recognizing, understanding, and managing one's own emotions, as well as perceiving and influencing the emotions of others. So it's a multifaceted ability, and it's essential, particularly for seniors, leaders, and then also for auditors, which is what we're going to talk about today, as it allows them to navigate their professional responsibilities with acute awareness and consideration of the emotional undercurrents present within their teams and among stakeholders. Within the specialized realm of audit leadership, the significance of emotional intelligence cannot be overstated. It underpins leadership efficacy, it shapes team cohesion, and it is fundamental to forging productive interactions with stakeholders. A heightened EQ, which means good emotional intelligence, facilitates a leadership style which is both responsive as well as adaptive to the emotional climate of the workplace, thereby promoting a harmonious and effective team environment. So, what are you going to gain from this? And we're hoping that by the end of this webinar, number one, you will be able to understand the five components of emotional intelligence, which is self awareness, self regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills. And then, secondly, you'll be able to identify the impact of emotional intelligence on audit leadership as well as team dynamics. And you'll be able to apply emotional intelligence strategies to improve your communication, to improve conflict resolution, as well as stakeholder management within the audit context. And finally, you'll be able to develop a personal action plan to enhance your own emotional intelligence as well as leadership effectiveness in the internal audit function or any other role that you have in the organization. So let's embark on this journey where we go through the five fundamental components. These are the bedrock of emotional intelligence. And we're hoping that by the end of this webinar, our aspiration is not only for you to grasp these principles conceptually, but also to equip you with practical tools to initiate the enhancement and the improvement of your own EQ. So let's start with the first one, empathy. Imagine a bridge connecting you to someone else, allowing you to walk over to their side and see the world through their eyes. That, in a few words, is empathy. It is the ability to take on another's perspective, to understand, to feel, and possibly share and respond to their experience. The next component is social skills. This is a web of interactions which we navigate daily. The ability to understand others' feelings, perspectives, and their concerns, being able to seek input from different kinds of people, and meeting the needs of others. This is all social skills. And then there's self awareness. And I want you to imagine looking yourself into a mirror and then not just seeing your reflection, but also understanding the emotions that reflect back at you. So, self awareness is the ability for one to recognize their emotions and their impact, the ability to assess your own strengths and your weaknesses, and the ability to have strong confidence in your abilities and your self worth. And then the fourth component is self regulation. Now, what I want you to do is to imagine yourself holding the steering wheel of a car say during a storm. So self-regulation is about the art and the ability to manage one's emotions, particularly during moments of heightened stress. You must have the capacity to respond thoughtfully rather than to react impulsively. You must be able to maintain composure and equilibrium and not to upset the apple cart. That's what self regulation is all about. And then we talk about motivation. Think of motivation as the fuel that propels a rocket, your rocket, into the sky. So when you're motivated, you're not just looking for external accolades. Instead, you have this inner flame, your own unwavering passion, which propels you forward even when there is no external validation or external recognition. You have your own motivation to do the things and to achieve the goals that you know are important to you. So it's vital to acknowledge that these pillars of emotional intelligence, they're not immutable. Rather, they can be fortified through dedicated practice and through cultivation. EQ is not just a static trait, but rather it's an ongoing journey of growth and refinement. No matter how old you are, no matter what sort of leader you've got to, you can always improve your own emotional intelligence. Let's now explore the vital role of emotional intelligence in shaping effective leadership and decision making within the audit environment. The challenges faced by audit leaders are unique as well as diverse, and they demand a skill set that goes beyond technical knowledge. Today, we're going to dive deep into how EQ acts as a lever for success in such demanding roles. Let's first of all start by appreciating the that audit leaders face unique challenges, including stuff like navigating complex organizational structures, managing diverse teams, and then addressing findings with various stakeholders who have diverse interests. I mean, self-awareness is really the internal mirror for an audit leader. It's about understanding your own emotional responses, recognizing your strengths, and acknowledging areas for self improvement. Self aware leaders are authentic and they can critically assess how their decisions and behaviors impact their team and the auditing process as well. Next, we can look at self-regulation. For audit leaders, the pressure of deadlines and unexpected findings, it can be immense. Here, your emotional intelligence is your anchor, allowing you to maintain composure, to ensure objectivity, and to lead by example. This calm amidst the storm is not only necessary, but it's actually contagious. And it sets the tone for the entire team's approach to any challenges that lie ahead. Now let's talk about motivation. And beyond your paycheck or title, motivation is the intrinsic factor driven by EQ, which inspires leaders and their teams to reach out for excellence. It's what keeps you going through complex audits, it encourages resilience, and it drives a passion for continuous improvement. That's what motivation is. Empathy is not a word often associated with auditing, but it's a game changer. An empathic leader sees through the eyes of their team and stakeholders. This understanding fosters collaboration, it eases conflict, and it builds an environment where concerns are heard and support is given. Finally, we focus on social skills. And for audit leaders, this means the ability to communicate effectively, being adept or expert at conflict resolution, and having strong persuasion as well as negotiation abilities. These skills allow you to guide your team, to present findings diplomatically, and to influence stakeholders constructively. By integrating emotional intelligence into audit leadership, leaders can create a more effective and resilient audit function. They can also foster stronger relationships with clients as well as their stakeholders. This will lead to improved team morale and it enhances the overall quality and credibility of the audit process. Before we dive into our case studies, let's consider why emotional intelligence is a non negotiable tool for effective leadership. A leader's ability to understand and manage emotions can deeply influence decision making, team dynamics, and the overall health of an organization. To bring this concept to life, we'll explore two different real world scenarios from the auditing field. These will illustrate the tangible effects of emotional intelligence in a high pressure environment. So let's look at the first case study. I want you to imagine an audit team facing a complex task that stretches across multiple departments. At the helm of this audit is a leader with strong emotional skills, a strong toolkit. What does this look like in practice? Let's quickly break down what this looks like. So, this leader is aware of his or her own strengths and weaknesses. The leader knows how to rally their team and also recognizes the need to brush up on the latest regulatory frameworks, standards, and so on and so forth. This leader, he has or she has honed their capacity for self regulation to a remarkable degree. So, even amidst the relentless pressure of looming deadlines, they are steadfast, they maintain a calm and composed demeanor. And this serves as an anchor to everybody because, it's a rough ride and it provides a sense of stability to the rest of the team members. They are able to keep the team's eyes on the prize, okay, and this underscores each person's pivotal role and then the collective goal, okay, which basically is to get the job well done. So let's then talk about empathy. How does the leader have empathy? I mean, this leader with high IQ and empathy is vigilant for signs of stress and burnout, ready to adjust workloads to maintain team balance. And finally, this leader has great social skills. Their communication skills are exceptional, which allows them to form alliances across departments to ensure a seamless and thorough audit. Now let's consider the opposite, a leader, an audit leader who lacks emotional intelligence. They haven't spent time developing their own EQ. So the first thing is they lack self awareness. They are unaware of how their stress affects the team, creating an environment of tension throughout. They also have poor self regulation. Their frustration becomes a constant companion and it overshadows the team's morale. And then they lack motivation. They don't communicate the importance of the assignment and they leave the team without clear direction. They also have limited empathy. They're blind to the team's burnout, pushing them even when productivity and morale are low. And lastly, they have poor or weak social skills. Their communication is abrasive, it's confrontational, it creates resistance instead of cooperation among the team members. So, what's the analysis of this? So, in our first case, where the leader has high EQ, this showed us how high emotional intelligence can guide a team to great victory, even in the face of a difficult situation. Whereas in the second case, the leader with a poor EQ revealed how the absence of emotional intelligence can totally destroy the team and it can lead to poor outcomes. So, what does this illustrate? For me, this sends a clear message. Emotional intelligence is not a luxury, it's actually a cornerstone of effective leadership. And if you're in a position of leadership, this is maybe your number one priority area if you're going to continue climbing the leadership ladder. So here is the second case study. Imagine you're an audit leader who has just received confidential feedback about a team member. Their performance has declined and it's affecting the quality of work and it's affecting the meeting of deadlines. Now, this is a delicate matter, and how you address it, it can either make or it can break the team dynamic. So now let's look at two different approaches based on the level of EQ. So, self-awareness. As a leader, you first reflect on your own emotions upon receiving any feedback. You're not driven by frustration, but rather by a constructive mindset to uplift the team member. We can look at empathy. You consider what's behind the decline. Is it personal issues? Is it workload related? You're actually preparing to have an understanding and compassionate dialogue with your team member. And then social skills. You schedule a private meeting. You start by affirming their past strengths, and then you move into the feedback, the specific area of weakness. It's specific, it's about work, it's not about the person. And then let's look at self regulation. Throughout the discussion, you stay calm, you stay supportive, you're actively listening. Even if the team member is defensive, you're not. You're the steady hand guiding the conversation. So, what's the outcome? The outcome is this team member feels supported, he or she feels understood rather than criticized or attacked. Together, the leader and the team member, they develop a performance improvement plan that addresses the root causes of the issues. It's never personal. The leader offers additional support and resources such as training or mentoring, and over time, the team members' performance actually improves and they feel more engaged and valued within the team. Now, let's contrast this with a low EQ approach. So let's look at the first one, lack of self awareness. The leader jumps to conclusions about the team members' abilities without any introspection. So basically, they just lash out. There's poor empathy. They give feedback publicly or in a confrontational way. It's about what's wrong, not about understanding. Inadequate social skills. The feedback is vague, leaving the team member feeling attacked with no clear improvement path. And then there's low self regulation. The frustration is clear. The conversation can easily get personal, damaging the team member's morale, maybe even permanently. Some people lose their employees simply because of this. So, what's the result here? The team member leaves the conversation feeling demoralized, misunderstood, and possibly even resentful, which may in turn lead to further disengagement and a further decline in performance. The lack of clear, constructive feedback and support does not facilitate improvement, and the overall team morale may suffer as a result of how the situation was handled. So, what can we conclude? We can conclude that high emotional intelligence leadership turns a tough situation into a chance for growth. It builds a supportive, cohesive team, whereas low emotional intelligence leadership, on the other hand, it can actually damage morale. It can damage performance. It's a cautionary tale of what not to do. This example clearly underscores the critical role of emotional intelligence in audit leadership, especially when giving sensitive feedback. Leaders with high EQ are equipped to foster a supportive environment that encourages development and improvement, even in difficult situations. In other words, a lack of high EQ can worsen situations. It can harm relationships. It can undermine your team's effectiveness. So, developing and applying emotional intelligence skills in leadership practices is absolutely essential to nurture resilient, high performing audit teams. So to conclude, these case studies, they are a clear call for all leaders, especially in the auditing sphere, to cultivate emotional intelligence. It's not just about enhancing personal leadership styles, but it's about fostering a culture that values empathy, resilience, and mutual respect. So by doing so, we don't just aim for successful audits, we actually strive for a thriving workplace. And I think that's what all of us want. So, what I'm going to do now is to hand over back to Meha, and she's going to take over the rest of the running the rest of the slides as Will Kister starts the next part of the presentation.
Thank you, Zahir, and greetings to all. Let's now explore the tangible strategies to enhance our emotional intelligence, specifically sharpening on self-awareness and self-regulation. As auditors,
Lucas, just adjust your screen so you're in the middle of it.
okay, as auditors, the nature of our work can often be a source of stress. But by mastering these skills, we can transform challenges into opportunities for growth and efficiency. Imagine an auditor, let's call them Mary. Mary, every evening, takes a moment of self-reflection. Through this practice, she notices a trend that is having a tight deadline and anxiety. With these insights, Mary begins to take time into tax planning, ending up reducing stress levels. These daily check-ins are simple yet powerful. I encourage you to spend a few minutes each and every evening to reflect on your day. How am I feeling right now? What triggers my strong emotions today? With these daily check-ins, you'll be able to answer these questions. Now, let's consider John, another auditor. Johns tend to become more defensive when receiving feedback. By mapping out emotional triggers, John can anticipate this reaction. Before entering a feedback session, John now practices deep breathing exercise. This pause allows him to approach the feedback with calmness and objectivity. Identifying your triggers and preparing with a calm technique can change the entire trajectory of a conversation. Lastly, meditation can be a solo or a team activity. It's about finding a moment of peace in a hectic day. I encourage that all of you incorporate daily meditation into your routine. You'll find that even just a minute of attention each day can significantly enhance your mental clarity. It's also important to know that incorporating this exercise or other exercises into your routine doesn't just benefit your life, it enriches all aspects of existence. Start small, perhaps with one exercise, and as you grow more comfortable, integrate more. Remember, emotional intelligence is a journey, not a race. Let's dive into practical strategies to strengthen our techniques for enhancing motivation, empathy, social skills within our teams. Let's unlock the potential that lies in effective team interaction and personal growth. First, let's talk about the power of recognition. Celebrating success, both the significant milestones and the small wins, is important. This isn't just about feeling good. It's about reinforcing positive behaviors and outcomes that align our goals. For instance, after a draining audit, a simple team lunch to celebrate can have a very big impact on the team morale. Moving forward, personal development plans are not just administrative paperwork. They are commitment to continuous growth, which entails key traits for any blooming auditor. Imagine empowering your team to learn new skills. For instance, your team can learn data analytics. This not only furthers their careers, but also bring fresh perspective into our audit processes. When we invest in our team's growth, we invest in the growth of our entire organization. Now, let's explore how to enhance empathy and social skills through role playing. These techniques allow us to step into our stakeholders' shoes, understand their concerns, and refine our approach to communication. Picture this. An audit manager and a team member engage in role play, tackling the delicate task of delivering sensitive feedback. Through this exercise, they explore the nuisance of forcefulness blended with empathy, a balance that can turn a tough conversation into a constructive dialogue. In this webinar, we are focusing on practical strategies to boost your team's performance and interpersonal skills. Mayor will send out a survey with 3 questions regarding this matter. Please take a 2 minutes to vote on the approaches you find most effective and share your thoughts. In the meantime, I hope you've all taken the test. There was a test shared with you on the chat before we began the webinar. Now I can see the test, rather the questions are on the screen. Please take time and respond to each and every question. Please continue sharing your votes and we will air out the results later. Anyone having the problem of seeing the poll? I'm giving you 1 minute to respond to the poll before we proceed. So now we have the results, and I'll take you through all the questions. Now, for the first question, that is, how often do you recognize and celebrate your team success, both big and small? We had 43 participants who ruled out that is part of the team culture, 40 participants who voted when we remember to do so, and 17 participants voted we need to do this more often. So that shows us that most of you usually appreciate the small and the big wins. Now, the second question is, do you have a structured personal development plan in place for your team members? We had 43 participants who are very active and they support and invest in the team's development. We had 33% who responded to, but it could be more structured or followed. And lastly, we had 23 participants who voted, but you are still interested in implementing it. It's like most of you are actively supporting and investing on the team's growth. Lastly, the last question is, have you used role-playing exercises to enhance empathy and social skills in your team? We had 18 participants who do that frequently. It's a key part of the training. 38% of the participants responded to sometimes. They've tried that occasionally, and 44% who responded to, but we see the value in starting. So it's like most of the participants don't exercise the role playing to enhance empathy and social skills. Okay, now we'll speak about how we can apply emotional intelligence in internal audit. Now, how do we apply emotional intelligence in internal audit? I will tell you how. Emotional intelligence is a game-changing competency that can redefine internal audit practices. Here, we'll explore the transformative power of emotional intelligence in the world of internal audit. We can apply emotional intelligence in communicating, resolving conflicts, and engaging stakeholders' engagement. Communication is not just about data exchange. It's about making connections within the team. In internal audit, we adopt our communication style to resonate with different stakeholders, whether it's delivering complex audit findings or navigating sensitive issues. We do it with clarity and openness. Now, how do we apply emotional intelligence in resolving conflicts? Conflicts in audit arise from many sources, but each conflict holds a seed of opportunity. With emotional intelligence, we use empathy to understand the root cause and negotiation skills to transform these challenges into paths for growth and improvement. Picture this: two colleagues clash over audit finding. Using emotional intelligence, we don't take sides. Rather, we navigate a resolution that acknowledges each side's concern and finding a solution that aligns them towards a common goal. Lastly, we can use emotional intelligence to enhance stakeholders' engagement. How? We should ask ourselves that question. Now, I'll tell you how. By building on a foundation of genuine understanding, respect, and responsiveness. Now, I'd like to hand over to my colleague Joseph to continue presenting the slides. Thank you.
Thank you, Mehat. Thank you, Kisra. Thank you, Zahir. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So before we craft a strategy in mastering audit leadership, I want us to remind ourselves why EQ is a negotiable tool in audit and on audit leadership. So a leader's emotional intelligence can brighten the way during the audit engagements and inspire the most demoralized teams. As a leader, you should be able to understand that it's not just about being smart. That it's more of just being about being emotional smart. So knowing what to improve is great, but knowing how to improve is even better. So we're going to explore various ways on how to improve on your emotional intelligence. which we'll discuss one by one in the subsequent slides. It is important to note that there are so many ways to improve emotional intelligence, but today we only concentrate on these 6 strategies, which is the research EQ on the internet, watching of it EQ, TD talks, know what EQ experts think, learn from those with opposite strength, be recognized as respectful and result-oriented, and turn conflicts into arguments. We're going to explore this individually in the next slides. Next slide, Meha. Now, at the start of the webinar and just previously, Chris had encouraged you assessment test. So researching EQ online can offer a wealth of knowledge to further understanding and skills, and I'll briefly guide you on how to interpret the results, what you see. Are you surprised or are you concerned by the results that you got? So let's try to diverge into the results. So from 20 to 33%, you have a very low emotional intelligence. This range suggests that there's significant opportunity for development in understanding and managing your emotions and the emotions of others. Those who scored between 34 to 49%, you have a low emotional intelligence field. The scores here indicate that while you may have some awareness of the EQ principle, there's room to enhance your skills. Those who scored between 50 and 70%, you neither low nor high. A score in this range just reflects a balanced EQ. You're neither high or low. You likely have a good foundation, but can still benefit from further development of the EQ. Those who scored between 71 to 86, you have very high emotional intelligence. Scoring here means you are very attuned to the emotions of yourself and others. There's always more to learn, so consider how you can deepen these skills to go out to the last column. For those who scored between 87 and 100, these are the ones that very, very high emotional intelligence. Here you excel in EQ. You are skilled at navigating emotional landscapes, but remember EQ is a lifelong journey. So EQ is just the same as internal audit. You keep improving every day, you learn and you develop. Now, so one of the strategies was these talks are not just about presentations, talks of watching EQ TEDx talks. There are conversations from thought leaders in the field of EQ. They provide us with real-life stories, scientific insights, and practical advice that can inspire and inform our journey towards better emotional intelligence in internal auditing. So watching these TEDx talks is more than just passive view. It is an active learning process, and I want us all to dive in the minds and be ready to explore how we can apply these EQ principles to become more effective leaders in the world of internal auditing. Internal auditing is diverse and keeps changing every day. So we need to keep apprised to the new changes every day, so that we continue to emotionally be intelligent and master this in internal audits. The next one was to know what EQ experts think. So you can uncover the transformative power of emotional intelligence as seen through the lens of literature. By exploring the writing of EQ experts, we stand on the shoulders of gaining a deeper understanding of how EQ shapes our interactions, leadership, and audit practices. There are a lot of books that are currently online, especially with the work of internet. We can explore these books. These e-books, we read through them. They help us to uncover more about ourselves and to improve on emotional intelligence. I want us to go to the next one of to go to a food strategy of to learn from those with opposite strength. We need to understand that personality is a complex and dynamic aspect of who we are, and psychologists have identified four key dimensions that can greatly impact our preferences and behaviors. These dimensions are not black and white categories, but rather a scale where we may find ourselves leaning towards one end or the other end. Sometimes even shifting along these scales depending on the context. So let's explore the first one, extraversion versus introversion. So if you identify with the extraversion, you might find energy in social gatherings and collaborative work. You're like a social butterfly. Draw your energy from the crowd, from the people you work with. On the flip side, if you lean towards introversion, solitude is your recharge station. You are like a deep sea diver. So exploring the depths of your inner world in a quiet reflection. Again, sometimes you can find someone leaning towards the other side of the balance based on the context at that time. Then if we move on to the second one, the sensing versus intuition scale. Those of you who are sensing might be practicality, dealing with concrete facts and hands-on experiences. Think of yourselves as builders who use bricks of reality to construct your understanding. Whereas in the other hand, intuition individuals are like artists, painting with strokes of possibilities and often thinking in abstract and innovative ways. Personally, sometimes I can be an extraversion, sometimes I can be a sensing individual. I draw my energy when I work around a tune, and I also sometimes base my understanding on the facts that are kind there, based on past experiences and the evidence that is there. So we all of us can shift from one depending on the context of the material thing. So I would like everyone just to take a moment and think about where you might place your dot on these scales. Would you be closer to extraversion or introversion? Are you more of a sensing person, or do you line with intuition? Remember, there's no wrong or right place. Place B. It is always dependent on the context of that particular time. So every time you're dealing with your team, you need to make sure that you get to understand them from their perspective, from the context at that time. Moving on to the last one is of being recognized as respectful and result-oriented. Is how can we develop a strong EQ? By being recognized as respectful and result-oriented, and by that you must encourage teamwork. And in order to excel, a team must incorporate these the above 5 pillars. The trusting one another. For a team to be successful, you need to trust one another, and you need to trust all your team members. You need to engage in conflict around ideas. Look for solutions around ideas and that being conflict. You need to commit to decisions. You need to hold one another accountable. And lastly, we need to focus on achieving collective results rather than individual results. So moving on, I want us to learn on how to turn conflicts into arguments. What is your perspective on the situation? This last strategy is about developing the personal EQ, is by always turning conflicts into arguments through the communication skills that create engaged faster. And how can we do that? It's by mastering the questions to end the conflict. For the first question is, what is your perspective on the situation? This question is crucial, as it opens the floor for the other person to share their side of the story. It demonstrates willingness to listen to opinions, which is cornerstone of resolving conflicts with emotional intelligence. It helps the other person to see that you care about their opinion, you are ready to listen to their feelings, and you reason with them. It helps them. It's the easiest way to resolve conflict. The next question is, what are your concerns and this issue? So asking about concerns and needs to get to the heart of what each party wants to achieve. Understanding these needs can be on the root of the conflict and can guide both parties toward a resolution that addresses the underlying interests of everyone involved. And lastly, the steps that can be taken to find a solution. So the question shifts the conversation from focusing on the problem to seeking a solution. It implies a partnership approach rather than a confrontational stance. So it encourages collaboration and the idea that a resolution should be mutually beneficial. So by strategically answering these 3 questions, every time you are trying to solve a conflict, you'll surely be solving these conflicts in a with a high emotional intelligence and to help your team in achieving your goals together. So that we have reminded ourselves on what emotional intelligence is. I want us to wrap up. As we wrap up, I want us to focus on a crucial skill that apply across all fields and aspects of life. So the art of decision making. Whether you are a leader in your organization or making personal choices, the way you approach decisions can make all the difference. So I want us to look into a systematic technique that can enhance the quality of your decisions. So this technique was developed by Dr. Rob Pennington, where she said that the team decision making, she called it the team decision making flowchart, which she declares as the clearest path to applying EQ to team meetings and decision making. So on this systematic approach, the first process is to clearly define the problem. So most of the times people think this is, and it actually sounds like a straightforward, but many errors in decision making stem from misunderstanding the issue at hand. So I want you to ask what exactly needs to be solved and why is it important? This is your starting point. So when you're doing any decision making, you need to understand what the problem is at hand, and you need to know the importance of it. Is it worth it? So once you answer that question, you are ready to start the approach of making a decision. The next one, the next you become a detective of sorts. This generally just means you gather all the facts and that are relevant to your problem. Remember, informed decisions. Ask yourself, what information do I need and where can I get it from? The more relevant information you have, the better prepared you are to move to the next step. So once you have clearly defined your problem, you gather all the required information for you to solve those problems. And from there, you go to the next step, which is the step of brainstorming. So with all the information you have in hand, it's now your time to brainstorm. This is where creativity meets critical thinking. Encourage in this step, you need to encourage all ideas, no matter how unconventional they. The goal is to generate as many solutions as possible without judgment. Once you have multiple causes of action, you can go to the next step of evaluating your options. So for each potential solution, list the pros and cons. Just the way you do evaluation in risk management. List the pros and cons. This step requires you to be objective and sometimes to play the devil's advocate. It is about foreseeing the benefits and drawbacks of each choice, so that it can help you to make out to choose the most suitable choice among the alternatives. So once you're armed with all your list of pros and cons, you need to make the decision. So you choose the option that offers the best balance of benefits over drawbacks. At every time, you need to remember that there's no decision that is perfect, but seek the one that aligns best with your goals and your values, the ones that is more productive to what you're currently doing. And finally, once you have selected your decision, you need to implement your decision and follow through with it. So a decision, no matter how well made, it is only as good as the action that follows. So monitor the outcomes and be ready to adapt if necessary. Remember, this is an ongoing process of learning and adjusting. So the quote by Dr. Rob Pennington, it underscores the significance of having a structured approach, a flowchart that we can follow to ensure you is just the forefront of our team interactions. So this isn't just about making decisions. It's about how we make them. It's about integrating empathy, awareness, and emotional intelligence into the decision-making process. So with following these techniques in decision-making, we'll have perfectly integrated emotional intelligence in mastering audit leadership. Thank you, Meha.
Thank you so much, Zahir Sheikh, Wilkes Sumo, and Joseph Monzanje. That was a really insightful presentation on emotional intelligence, specifically relating to mastering audit relationship. I'm sure we have a lot of insights that we can take away and improve on our emotional intelligence. We did take a survey, and I hope that those results kind of give you more of an idea of where you stand on emotional intelligence. And then using all the tips provided by Joseph, Zahir, and Wilkester, you can improve on your emotional intelligence. And now we can move on to a Q&A session. We don't have that many questions, but the first question is, what are the key questions the CAE can ask an auditees to get feedback on the internal audit opinion provided to them? Wilkester,
Yeah,
Joseph.
so I can take that. Basically, I mean, whoever's asked that question, I just ask them to send an email to me, and then I can basically engage with them. Okay, because it's not a, yeah, it requires, it doesn't have a short answer.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you so much, Zahir. If there are any other questions, please type them in the Q&A chat and we can discuss them. And if there aren't, thank you all for joining us here today. We really do appreciate you all taking time out of your day to hear us out. And I'm sure a lot of you are regular attendees of our webinars. And I'd also like to mention that we have a 2-week break from our webinars, but thankfully we have all our webinars uploaded on YouTube, which gives you enough time to catch up on our webinars. And so the next webinar is on 13th March, which is on data privacy, the role of data protection officers in East Africa. So it's a very crucial webinar that you all should attend, because obviously data privacy and cybersecurity is very, very important knowledge. And then the next webinar is again on data privacy on 20th March. And it's about data protection for small and medium enterprises. So please mark your calendars and keep a lookout in your inbox for all these. And again, check out our YouTube page, which is Video in East Africa, to catch up on all our webinars. Zahir, if you'd like to say a few more words, you can take over. Thank you all.
Thanks, Meha, and thanks all of you. I think for me, this was very useful. I have read the book actually, Emotional Intelligence by Daniel Goleman, and he is, in fact, I think he wrote the first book, or at least the first best-selling book on this topic. And it's well worth read. If you don't want to read it, then maybe you can just watch a video that summarizes it, maybe on YouTube. But it's a well worth read. He's got lots of examples on how leaders have successfully navigated complicated issues and navigated their businesses and their teams to success. So it was great to have so many participants today, and I look forward to being with all of you again in 2 weeks' time. See you and bye-bye. The presentation, somebody's just asked a question, are you sharing any notes? Well, the whole presentation, the recording is going to be on our YouTube channel, which is BDO East Africa. So if you go to YouTube and you type in BDO East Africa, you will see the BDO East Africa YouTube channel. On that channel, you will find nearly 50 webinar recordings, including this one, as well as all the past ones for free. So, we're happy to share all of our knowledge and, all of our experience with our clients and anybody else that's interested. So that's where you go, BDO East Africa YouTube channel. And May has just posted the link. So if you can just copy paste that, it'll take you straight there. All right, folks, thanks for being with me, and I look forward to seeing all of you in 2 weeks. Bye-bye.